What are we doing on this section of the Appalachian Trail? This is actually a vehicle section, so you don't have to be alarmed that I'm breaking any laws to come out here, but this is pretty much what the road looked like in this neighborhood 50 years ago before they turned it into a big, fast highway that we were just on. And there were some local reprobates lived in the hot springs area, were suspected in multiple rape cases of hikers on the Appalachian Trail. It's not the history they want you to know about, but anyway. So there was, in 1970, a girl as part of the Volunteers in Service to America. I think she was 20, college student, came out here to help people. Just find out, what do people need? Better medical, maybe a library. She actually helped open up the closed movie theater, so kids would have something better to do than just hang out, getting into trouble. One day she was, afternoon I guess it was, she was leaving Hot Springs, headed back up to the northwest or northeast, up to her cabin where she was staying while being a volunteer in service to America. Heading up through this gap that we're in right now, when she was forced off the road, hogtied, raped, and left in the car to die. Took people a few days to find her. A lot of accusations. They even charged one of her Vista co-workers with the crime, but he had an airtight alibi. He had nothing to do with it. They just figured it was easier to pin it on an outsider than to go after the actual perpetrators. Since then, one of the criminals confessed. Of course, some people say, oh, he'll confess to anything if it'll get him a shorter sentence, but still, he knew details about the crime that were never released to the public, so I am 100% convinced that the guy who confessed to it is the guy who did it. Anyway, it's a beautiful area, as long as you're not being raped and murdered. Now, that was 50 years ago, and there were allegations of corruption in the police and politicians, judges. I'm not going to go there. I don't know how much of that is speculation, how much of that is true, and we'll probably never know. This part of the Appalachians is where the song Tom Dooley came from. And when you hear that song, it's a song I grew up listening to because my parents were weird. They liked folk music. They liked Pete Seeger, and they liked the Kingston Trio, and they even liked those radicals, the Smothers Brothers. And so this song about Tom Dooley, there's a line in it, met her on the mountain. An investigative reporter spent years studying the Nancy Morgan case. And, doggy. But since things have changed, roads moved, stuff like that, I won't know the exact spot where she was found or where it happened, but suffice it to say, this beautiful area here has some dark history. One of the things I learned in that book about the unsolved murder was about the history Now, growing up as I did on the West Coast, yeah, we learned a little bit about the Civil War, but it didn't really affect California all that much, since it wasn't a state. Well, yeah, I guess it was a state during that, but it wasn't. There were no big battles in California. But you always heard the story of brother against brother. One went north and one went south. That never really made much sense to me because most families have pretty similar political views. You'd think if one house is Confederate, that everybody in it would be. But it turns out there's a lot of truth to that. One brother goes north, one brother goes south, because the parents knew that one side was going to win and one side was going to lose. And they knew that somebody was going to have to take care of the farm once the war was over. So chances are, if you sent them in both directions, somebody would survive and be alive to run the farm. Well, that never even occurred to me because what do I know about this? Anyway, I encourage anybody who likes murder mysteries to read that book, Met Her on the Mountain. It's an entertaining story. It is true crime. I know a lot of people are in love with their true crime podcasts and such. Not really been one of my favorites. I like a good murder mystery, but to me it's always, can I figure it out before the big reveal? And as long as the big reveal isn't a bunch of new information, well, I'm happy if they've beaten me. And I'm a little disappointed when I figure it out before the end of the book. You're like, I knew that. How come nobody in your book could figure this out? So from Sherlock Holmes to Sam Spade, I like all those murder mysteries. Not all of them. I mean, I used to watch them on TV. Columbo, it was always the highest paid out-of-work actor. Oh, look, there's Gene Barry. He's the killer. How do I know? Because he's had a couple of successful TV shows and now he's not working. So after a stint on Columbo, they'd go off to the Love Boat and whatever other venues. Oh, game shows. Hollywood Squares. Anyway, I like a good mystery, and I'm convinced that in spite of what the courts have ruled, I think we know who did it. I think we know why, and I think we know why they were never caught. It's all laid out in the book, makes for a good story. This here is Tanyard Gap. This is probably the road that it was when they ran her off the road and dumped her body. In fact, the guy that confessed said that she was alive when they left her. They hogtied her to keep her from screaming and didn't expect her to choke from it. So I don't really understand hog tying. Haven't ever experienced it myself. Don't want to. Anyway, beautiful area. Guess if you're going to have to die, as good a place as any, but not when you're 20.